Good morning, my dear friends and lovers of astrology. I am today live. I originally thought that I wanted to talk about the full moon in Gemini, but then I am very interested in explaining a little about the ingress of Jupiter in Capricorn, which is super important for what is coming in January, right? Because we will have a lot of planets in Capricorn. But the ingress of Jupiter is really important for us to understand the meaning and the impact, its influence on what is happening right now and how things will develop over the year 2020. So I rather start by explaining Jupiter in Capricorn, which will be part of the full moon in Gemini also. So I probably will have to do a separate video for the full moon. Anyways, so Satsangat, I practice astrology. I do readings for people. So if you're interested, please contact me. Otherwise, you can read me. My blog is Satsangat Astrology, blogspot.com. I'll put the link in the description below. And so if you're interested, please go to the blog and read. I post videos not too often, let's say once a week or once every 10 days or so on this channel. I also have another channel for yoga teaching because I am a KRI certified Kundalini yoga teacher. So I do many things. Anyways, but now we're talking astrology. I invite you to subscribe to my channel. That will help me a lot, and like the videos if you do, and make comments, please. I would love to hear your input about what I say here. Anyways, Jupiter. Jupiter is considered the great benefic, right? Its size is so big of a planet that in fact is the planet that protects us from outside influences, is the planet that has more power among all of them in the solar system, and it's very very important in our lives. So there, where you have Jupiter, you will have positive growth and progress and good luck also. But Jupiter ingress in Capricorn is like stepping in a house where you are not loved, because Capricorn is the house of Saturn. And let's refer to the mythology, right? Saturn was the ancient Kronos, Jupiter, the ancient Zeus in the Greek mythology. But Greek and Roman mythology is the same almost. So approximately the same. Anyways, so what happens when Jupiter enters the house of his enemy, his own father, by the way? He is restricted. So he comes from his own home in Sagittarius, and then he enters Capricorn, a place where he is not welcome. And I'm going to explain the mythology of it. And I also wanted to refer you to read an article in my blog where I explain why I use mythology in order to get a greater understanding of astrology. But in summary, mythology is a way to process psychological issues that human beings have in a way that is easier to explain, right? Because there are some processes that we have a hard time to put into words, and so that way we process. It's like the catharsis in the Greek theater, where by watching or telling a story like a myth or a legend or even a fairy tale, it's a way to process psychological issues that are hard to explain in a logical way. So, and this has a meaning, a very important meaning. So let me tell you the story of Jupiter, or Zeus. So Jupiter was one of the children of Saturn, but the oracle has told Saturn that one of his children was going to dethrone him, or to defeat him, and he would become the king instead. So what Saturn did was eating his children, his own children. He ate Pluto, Neptune, Ceres, and a couple more. Don't remember their names. Anyways, he ate them, and once Rhea, or Ops, the wife, was pregnant with Jupiter. So when Jupiter was born, she tried to protect him from Saturn that wanted to eat him. So she gave Saturn a rock wrapped in cloths, and Saturn ate that rock instead of Jupiter, and she saved Jupiter in a cave, right? And he grew up in a cave, and he was saved. But so he was, and here is where we see the fate, how the oracle has announced Saturn that one of his children will overthrow him, and no matter how many children he ate, he couldn't avoid the fate. Anyways, because when Jupiter grew up, and he organized a war against the Titans, not only his father, but the Titans, and he defeated him. And not only that, he made Saturn throw up all the babies that he had eaten, and he cut Saturn into pieces. And anyways, very gruesome, but this is all symbolic. Is, of course, this is not real. It's a story that we tell in order to understand something, and I'm going to explain what it is. So what happens is that once he defeated Saturn, he became the king, and he became the king that was just, that was fair, that was instituted the moral law and the natural law, right? It's a paradox that the natural law allowed him to be unfaithful to his wife, and I mean, he had all kinds of adventures and children all over the place. Anyways, but he was the king that was able to be the benefactor to all his subjects, and he was very benefactor. He was a benefactor to everybody. So anyways, the teaching of this, the end of the story is that the kingdom, they were divided into, Neptune went to be the lord of the oceans, Pluto the underworld, the lord of the underworld, the riches of the world and the wealth of the world. He was the lord of all the riches, and Jupiter was then the lord of the sky or the heavens. So they divided the wind, they divided the rain, the world among them. So what is the message of this antagonism between the son and his father, right? So we see that Saturn means eating his children, means that they needed to be adults, they needed to there is a point where we become adults, we reject our childhood. That's one part of the meaning of the myth. And the other piece is the generational clashes, right? How the son overthrows the father, and this is the generational conflict, right? Every son or daughter is always against their parents. And why? Because we are born in a different mission, right? Let's say an example. My generation was called to fix the problems that the previous generation had caused. So, and that is why we are against our parents, because we're trying to repair whatever mess they have made. So it is our call to be in opposition to our parents in order to erase whatever they have done wrong, and we create a new way of doing things and new mistakes also, which our descendants will fix for us. So that's a very simplistic way to explain this opposition and this fight between son and father, which represents, in fact, not only the sons, but represents also daughters and any offsprings. So it's always this conflict, right? So as you can see, there is the myth is explaining a process that is very difficult to put logically into a meaningful explanation, right? So that is the story of Jupiter. Jupiter defeating his father, or repairing the mistakes or the mess that he had made. So then right now Jupiter entered Capricorn, the house of Saturn. So how do you think this is going to work out? Anyways, so in the house of Saturn, which is the sign of Capricorn, so Jupiter will have to be constrained to the limits of the physical material world. And let me explain a little bit more about Capricorn. Is a sign of it's a solid, very frigid, crystallized. In fact, the world of Capricorn is a rocky world. It's mountains, is barren, is something that doesn't really welcome the fire of of Jupiter, right? So Jupiter bumps onto those rocks, which is the limits and the constraints of the physical world. Remember, Saturn represents the boundary between the seen and the unseen, right? Is the last visible planet with the naked eye. So Jupiter is within those limits, and he can expand so far as to arrive to the limits, right? So in Capricorn, Jupiter will help us expand, but in a controlled manner, disciplined manner, structured manner. So following the rules of Saturn, which is in his own home and very strong. Not only that, but he is conjunct Pluto almost, but it's already considered a conjunction. And so these two planets make it, this Capricorn house, a very stronghold, like a fortress. And Jupiter entered the little door that they allowed him, and he is going to stir things up. And how is he going to do this? Well, in the practical material world, Jupiter will, let's say, unite, right? Because Saturn is the organizer, right? It organizes systems and discrimination of things into categories, and he separates things in order to achieve safety, right? If you remember, for example, 9/11, how did we solve the issues? Was by Saturn, right? Regulations, limits, controls, right? And to achieve security or safety. So that's the way Saturn operates in Capricorn, is by putting limits and constrictions. And so Jupiter will expand those. So don't expect things to be easier for the next year while Jupiter will be there, because it could be worse. So restrictions, and for example, there will and Jupiter also represents legal matters and the law. So he will probably favor regulations, for example, corporations, Capricorn corporations, more regulations in government, more regulations. Also, Pluto is there, remember. Pluto is the lord of the wealth and the resources in the world. So there will be more regulations and constrictions, expansion, right? Jupiter regulations, Saturn, of the banking system. It's going to be probably the birth of a new system of banking, or a new value system, a different kind of system or organization of the wealth in the world, and also a redistribution, right? But don't expect that to be a redistribution to those that are in need for now. We need to wait until Jupiter enters Aquarius, the sign of everybody is equal, right? To see those changes. But for now, probably the regulations will still favor the big powers, the big organizations, and the elites. So Jupiter will also provide legal support to international relations, also to travel. I think there will be more laws regulating travel, and also cultural exchanges, maybe also regulated. I mean, migrations, for example. Uh, Jupiter represents exchanges, cultural exchanges. That's the way Jupiter expands our consciousness, by um, allowing us to learn about different cultures, right? And how we can benefit from learning different ways of surviving, different ways of living. So I think in Capricorn, those will be limited, constrained. So there will be probably more restrictions in international travel and migration. So it has, I mean, those who think that Jupiter is always benefic, they need to think that twice. And let me give you some examples. This year, we don't have to go back far back in order to find how Jupiter could not be benefic, because once every time Jupiter made a square to Neptune this year, there were floods, Neptune water overflows in several parts of the world, storms that could not be contained. We have not long ago Venice underwater. I think that it's still underwater, and several other cases of important and very catastrophic flooding. So and another case of Jupiter not being so benefic was the missile crisis in Cuba. If you were alive, or if you remember your history, October 16 to 28, 1962, it was that crisis in Cuba where we were all humanity were on the verge of extinction by the atomic power. So because Jupiter was with Chiron opposite Pluto and Uranus, and Jupiter was in Pisces islands opposite Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. So Jupiter expands. It could expand good things, and it could expand bad things also. So it could expand the powers of the world that are seeing their demise now for the future. So they are trying to hold on to the power strongly. And let me be very straightforward, and I'm not going to tell you, oh, Jupiter is so good, and Jupiter is going to bring us all good luck and good things. Well, what do you think? The company that he has in Capricorn, Pluto and Saturn. So, as I said, the elite and the powers of the world will grip to their power. Corporations and big money powers, they will hold on to like life and death. Pluto rules life, death, and all or nothing, right? So because they see the risk, right, of losing it all, and it's very hard for those powers to lose grip of the power they have, right? So anyways, but how Jupiter and Capricorn can affect us personally? Well, it depends on the position on our chart, and it depends on how the natal Jupiter works in our natal chart, in order to see how one can benefit, right? For example, 12 years ago, when Jupiter entered Capricorn, there was the crisis, the subprime crisis, right? And many people lost so much money, but other people benefited from their losses. Many people benefited from the losses of other people. So there is always good and bad. Who knows, right? Who knows? Like Ajahn Brahm says, good, bad, who knows? So it could be that, especially I think earth signs could have a smoother Jupiter influence than other cardinal signs will have it really impact very strongly. But what can bring personally? Definitely challenges from Saturn and Pluto, but Jupiter will help us if we do our part, if we work hard, if we allow the transmutation that Pluto is operating in that area of our life, if we give in to his power and embrace the transformation that he is operating in that house of your zodiac, your personal chart, then Jupiter can help us prosper and grow in that area, but with a lot of work and constraints, discipline, restrictions. It's going to be a time when you need to set your goals in that area of your life. Suppose that it is the sixth house of work, a place of work and health. You need to set your goals. Okay, I'm going to be healthy this way and do this thing, short-term goals, long-term goals. And how, suppose that you are overweight and you suffer from high blood pressure, right? So what is it that you are going to do short term? For example, eliminate salt, eliminate fat, right, of your diet, from your diet, suppose. And then the long term, I want to lose a certain amount of pounds or kilos. So you set goals and you achieve them with hard work, right? The same if it is your place of work and your job. What are the goals long term? What are the goals that short term will support the long term goal? And then that way you will prosper and grow. Otherwise, you might have outside influences that will force you to change and to restrain yourself. It will outside forces that can restrict yourself, that can put blocks in your way in order to, suppose that let's go back to the case of a person who's overweight. If you don't do anything and you don't set goals, you probably may have a heart attack or high blood pressure that you can't control, or any I don't know, anything that can be a turning point that will force you to do it. So it's better to do it willingly than to receive a shock that can force us to do things. So be practical and set your objectives, and put your own restrictions, and adopt your own social conventions and your own organization. Establish your own system. Let's say it is your fifth house of creativity and joy and children and romance. And so what you can do, for example, let's say for your children, right, you can put goals, short-term goals for your children to achieve certain objectives, especially to learn discipline. Let's say they suppose that you want them to go to bed on time so they can wake up on time to go to school the other day. So that would be a short-term goal. So let's say you go to bed at this time of the day, and we turn off the lights, and you would sleep at this time of the day, and you wake up at this time. Okay, what is the long-term goal for them? To be successful in school, for example. So that is very important, because if you let them, suppose that is in your fifth house of your children, if you let them do whatever they want to do, then they will come one day with being expelled from the school, or with F's and failing grades, and so you will be forced to do otherwise, right? And not let them do whatever they want. So that's another example. So let's all try to organize our lives in a way that will be productive. It's Jupiter will spend a whole year in Capricorn. It will go straight to the 27th degrees in Capricorn. He will meet Pluto 3 times. It's let me see my notes. It's April, June, and November. I don't remember exact date, but April, June, and November, because it will go direct, retrograde, and direct again. So, and those conjunctions with Pluto will be extremely powerful, because Jupiter adds his expansion and Pluto his power. What is this? Is expansion of power. So those will be dates to remember, and you will probably remember those times for years to come. So make sure that you are prepared for those times. What else I wanted to say? It's very important. The Jupiter mission is to help us develop our vision long term to the future, how we aim, right? How we aim long term. So use this vision and establish, think of what you want to achieve long term, let's say for next year. Once Jupiter is finishing his travel in Capricorn. So develop your vision for 1 year. Where do you want to be in 1 year in this area of life occupied by Capricorn? Let's say your first house, fifth house, sixth house, whatever it falls in. So envision your objective, your goal, and work on that, but consciously, with practical and determined goals. As I said, establish your long-term and then your short-term goals, short-term goals, so you can be successful. Okay, I think I said everything that I wanted to say about Jupiter and Capricorn. Yeah, my time is up. I mentioned that. Okay, yeah, the structures also, the governmental structures of political institutions will be changed by Pluto and Saturn, and Jupiter is coming to do the regulations, the laws, and the expansion. So be sure that during 2020, life will change for all of us all over the world. It's not just our little corner or our little city or our country, no matter how big the country is. The changes and the transformations, the transmutations will be huge. And we can count on certainly find ourselves in a new kind of world by the end of 2020. So help yourself by envision what you want to achieve. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about Jupiter and Capricorn. I hope this is useful. And if you have questions or want to know more about your own chart, for example, if you want to know how to do better personally, just don't hesitate to contact me. You can email me. You can visit my blog, where I have a page explaining how I work and what I do, and also the charges. So you can request a reading, a personal reading with me, and I will certainly answer all the questions that you might have. Okay, so good luck to you with Jupiter in Capricorn, and the best of my wishes for the whole 2020 year. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, share the video. I greatly appreciate your subscribing to the channel also. Thank you so much, and see you next time with the full moon in Gemini. Okay, pretty soon. Look out for it. Bye-bye.